Welcome to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. Are you over 40 and tired of struggling with your weight, dieting, and constantly feeling like you're starting over with nutrition and fitness? Do you wish you had more energy? Do you want to lose weight and finally keep it off for good? I'm Lil, a certified nutrition coach and former registered nurse. I too have been there, and at the age of 44, I decided I was done with fad diets and chasing a lower number on the scale. I was so tired of constantly starting over and wondering why I couldn't get lasting results. I became a nutrition coach and created the Feel Your Best formula for women who want to build muscle, lose fat, and keep it off for good. If you're ready to build a better relationship with food, the scale, and your body, let's build your formula for feeling your best. If you're new here, make sure to check the episode details for the link to my newbie starter guide. You'll receive an email straight to your inbox with everything you need to start building your Feel Your Best formula. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hey, welcome back to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. This week, we are going to talk about a topic that I know so many of you think about every single week, and it's part of your daily life. And I'm hoping that by talking about this, you can walk away from this episode and have some new ideas on how to make meal prep, meal planning easier for you. The specific topic of today's episode is we're going to talk about the difference between meal prep and ingredient prep, and talk about how maybe thinking about things differently, doing things differently might not make it feel so overwhelming and actually help you be more successful in feeling like things go smoothly each week and you're not so stressed when member of your family asks, "What's for dinner?" Because I know for all of us, that is a question that sometimes just makes us want to scream. So I'm Lil. If you don't know me and you're new here, definitely go back to episode 1 and listen to that episode where I just tell you a little bit more about me and this podcast, and you can see if this is something you might want to tune into. New episodes come out every single Monday morning at 5 a.m. so that you can start your week with some fresh ideas, and it gives you the whole week to start planning, or maybe there's some things that we talk about here that you want to start implementing right away. Anyway, on here, we just talk about realistic, sustainable, healthy habits and trying new things, all on that ultimate goal of just making living healthy easier. So this is episode 10, and I can't believe we're in double digits for the podcast here. And I just want to remind you, if you have not already, make sure to subscribe to this podcast channel. And if you've been enjoying these episodes and you are on episode 10 and you've really found them helpful, it would mean so much to me if you could just take literally 30 seconds and go and leave me a 5-star review, maybe make a little comment. And that is just really helpful for other people who might come across this podcast to decide if it's something they may or may not want to listen to. So I also want to let you know I have a newsletter that you can subscribe to, and I promise you I'm not going to be annoying and all up in your inbox multiple times a day. Nope, I'm like you. I do not like being overwhelmed by spam in my inbox, but once you sign up, you are going to get a series of emails that are going to help you create healthy habits. I'm going to talk about the routines specifically that we spoke about in episode 9, and just help you dig a little deeper into those goals and take action in a way that's going to work for you. So you can find the link in the episode details of this episode, and you can go ahead and sign up for that newsletter. Now, today we are going to talk about, like I said, the difference between meal prep and ingredient prep, and maybe you can decide which one is going to work better for you, or maybe you want to do a little combination of both. If you're new here, I'll give you a little background on why I love talking about food and recipes and meal prep and all the things that having to do with eating and eating healthy. It's because I originally started in the online space many, many years ago, over 10 years ago, with a little blog on Blogger that my brother had asked me to start because he lived overseas and he always wanted my recipes or a way of saving recipes for himself. And he said, can you just, use this blog so that I can easily go on there and get access to everything? And I really realized I could do more with it. And I started just sharing ideas on how to cook local CSA vegetables. And that's where it started. And it's really just grown from there. So food has always been at the heart of everything I talk about. I share a lot of food ideas on my social media. I'm a self-taught cook. I was not taught to cook, by my parents or anything like that. And I grew up in a vegetarian home where we ate a lot of tofu and veggies and foods that, I wouldn't say I necessarily love. I do enjoy tofu, but I really had that inner passion to start cooking. And at a very early age, I started buying my own ingredients and cooking in my kitchen. So if you can't tell yet, food is a passion of mine. And as a busy mom, I want to eat food that tastes great, that's healthy, that hopefully my whole family will enjoy, but I am not going to be spending hours cooking every night. So I'm always looking for recipes and ways of making cooking healthy easier, but also everything needs to taste good or I don't want to eat it. So that's why I'm so passionate about these topics. And I hope that even if you don't enjoy cooking, you see the value in cooking for yourself and controlling those ingredients, and doing a little meal prep can actually be really helpful for you if you really don't enjoy cooking, because it can really save you time. So that's just a little bit about me. And I also want to make sure we acknowledge that nothing is a one size fits all. And that's really what this podcast is all about, is helping each of you create your best formula for feeling your best. And that's going to look different for all of us. So often when we talk about these different topics, I'm never going to come on here and tell you this is the way you need to do things. I might say, this is something that really works for me, or this is something that has really worked for one of my clients. But really, you need to take ownership and be honest about how much effort are you willing to, number one, put into learning about something new, and then how much effort are you willing to put into implementing it. So when you listen to these various ideas that I have here on the podcast, really pay attention to those ones where like a little light bulb goes off in your head, because that's your intuition telling you this is something that I'm excited about and I really want to try for myself. And the older I get in life, I really learn to listen to that sort of inner little alarm bell in my head saying, ding, 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 pay attention here, wake up, write this down. So if you, have a notepad handy or your phone and there's something I say here, you can always just jot down a little note for yourself to follow up on that later. Okay, let's dive in. Now, first, let's talk about meal prep. And I don't know about you, but I know when I first started really getting into eating healthy, my kids were little and I worked out at the gym and I knew I really wanted to eat better. So I started looking into, what does someone who eats really healthy, what do they do? And I went to the library and I took out all kinds of books. I would get, different magazines like Shape Magazine, Self Magazine, and just look for different meal plan ideas. And at that time, it was really popular. And I would say it's still pretty popular, but there would always be the suggestion that you should cook all your food one day of the week. I think Sunday meal prep was really a common theme that you saw everywhere and still is pretty predominant today. But this idea that on Sundays you should sit down and you should just cook all your food for the week, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, you would just have it all laid out. and you would have this beautiful refrigerator just filled with all your meal prep containers. And at the time, I really thought that was hashtag goals. Like, yes, this is what I need to do. If I'm going to be successful, then I have to do this too. And I really thought that it was sort of this secret weapon, per se, of being successful with weight loss and living healthy. And, it is great in theory. All you need to do is grab a container from your refrigerator, heat it up. You can easily, throw stuff with you if you are leaving the house, just bring a little cooler and you have all that food ready to go. However, it also means that you have to find this really big block of time to do all of this. And I would say, especially when you start meal prepping, you're going to be a little slower at it. You're not going to be quite sure which recipes you're going to make. And this is something that could take 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, or more. And if you've got kids and activities, if you want to really enjoy your weekends or your days off, I know many people work weekends, then do you really want to spend a huge chunk of that day cooking all this food? And I'm going to be honest with you that I never got to that point in my meal prep. Some of the women in my fitness groups did, and I was always in awe of how organized and pretty their containers looked. And I definitely always felt like that is something I should be doing because it really does look very satisfying. And you really have that feeling of, if I'm this organized, then there's no way I'm going to fail. So that's kind of a little idea of what full meal prep is. And that's one, very far end of the spectrum where you are literally prepping basically, in theory, every bite you're going to eat that entire week. Now, let's talk about ingredient prep. And with ingredient prep, you basically prepare just a few ingredients that you can easily throw together for a meal or snack. Things like cooking up some shredded chicken. I have a slow cooker shredded chicken that I make all the time. Maybe you want to make some taco meat, or you want to cook up some sausage. Maybe you want to chop up some raw fruits, veggies, maybe make a salad mix, maybe steam some veggies or roast some veggies. You could make some rice or some quinoa, make some hard-boiled eggs. You get the idea. You're basically cooking all these separate ingredients, but you're not necessarily putting them all together into a complete meal. You're not necessarily measuring out your ingredients right then. You're not really putting any sauces or anything on them. You're having just these basic ingredients that then you can jazz up and make to your liking when it's time to actually eat. So it's very flexible. And say maybe for breakfast, you want to have eggs and toast and you just want to toast up your toast and you want to grab those hard-boiled eggs and make yourself, just a really quick and easy, maybe a pre-workout snack or something, and grab some of the fruit salad that you've made. It's just more of a grab and go type of mentality. And you don't necessarily have to cook for the entire week. Instead, you might just do these little mini prep sessions as you need to throughout the week. Once you say, run out of the rice that you've prepared, then you make a batch of quinoa or some pasta salad or some other delicious ingredient that, can fit into that same macronutrient bucket. And hopefully I didn't confuse anyone there. I just realized I haven't really talked about macros on here yet. That's definitely a topic I will dive into. But basically for your macros, when you're building your meals, you want to be looking to have your carbohydrates, your fats, and your proteins. And when you're doing ingredient prep, it's a really great idea to have food items from each of those groups, because then you can make a complete meal really, really easily. So I personally feel like the idea of the complete meal prep the type of meal prep that we talked about first, where every bite of food is prepared at the beginning of the week. I feel like that's sort of highlighted and shown more on social media as kind of being the ideal, in that if you're super fit and you're super healthy, that is definitely a way of living for many people who consider themselves at the top of their game. And I don't really see people talk about ingredient prep as much, although some people do. And that's why I wanted to talk about it on this podcast, because I think it can be intimidating to see someone who's in amazing shape. And of course, you want to know what their habits are because you want to get ideas from them. But if they are someone who does this complete type of meal prep, it might seem really intimidating to you. And you just think to yourself, oh my gosh, I could never do that. Or if I did, it would just be really exhausting. And I'm just not sure that that's how I want to live my life, because we want to enjoy life and we're going to stick with the things that we enjoy. That is going to be a theme throughout this podcast. But if you want to stick with your healthy habits, you've got to find things that you enjoy, look forward to, and at the very bare minimum, you do not detest or get stressed out when you think about them. So I think that these are two very different ways of being prepared. But I think when we are planning and we're trying new things, it's really important to look at what all of our options are. And some of the benefits of having that complete meal prep done is, every bite of food is already accounted for. Maybe if you track your macros or you track whatever it is for the particular way that you're eating, you can account for all of that and then not really have to think about it for a few days. But a couple things come to mind. Number one, I don't know about you, but I do get a little skeeved out by eating food that has been sitting in my fridge for more than, I feel like 3 days max is sort of my tolerance for leftovers. And the few times that I did try to do a complete meal prep where, say, I prepped everything on Sunday and then I'm trying to eat foods on Friday that I had prepared on Sunday. And I know, don't come at me with, well, certain foods are great. They last, 5 to 7 days in the fridge or whatever. I totally get that. But in my mind, I just don't like to eat leftovers that have been sitting around for a long time, right or wrong. It's just my own personal thing. And I was never able to really get past eating much beyond Tuesday or Wednesday. And then I would waste the food, or I would give it to my husband, and I wouldn't really want to eat it. So that's one thing. The other thing is you don't really have any flexibility if you do go out to eat or get stuck at work and your plans change. You have that whole meal or meals in your day that are not being consumed. And unless you can put them in the freezer or whatnot, they are probably going to get wasted. So it's a very rigid way of preparing your meals for the week. And there's certainly people who could definitely benefit from this type of food preparation. If you work, really long hours, work multiple jobs, maybe you're a student and you work, we all have different obligations, different things, different commitments. So if this is the only way that you can stick to the foods that you want to eat and the way you want to nourish your body, then I say go for it. And that might be a really great option for you. But ingredient prep can give you a lot of the same benefits without those downsides that I talked about. Number one, just preparing enough that most likely you're going to consume all of it within 2 to 3 days. Even though, yes, I know some foods will be fine for longer in the fridge. That to me is just my little buffer zone of not wanting to get food poisoning. So I really try to stick to just 2 to 3 days of, the ingredient prep. And if you're in the kitchen at least a few times during the week cooking dinner, my kids are not going to be eating a meal prepped dinner out of a container. They're going to want a fresh dinner cooked for them every night. And that's more the reality. So I'm going to be in the kitchen anyway. Why not use that time while I'm cooking the dinner for all of us? Why don't I use that time to throw some rice in the rice cooker or throw something into the Instant Pot or maybe roast some veggies real quick? You can really learn how to multitask or simply double the size of the dinners that you're making and really use that time in the kitchen wisely so that, you're cooking dinner for that night, but then you are also preparing items that can then be used for lunches over the next few days. I personally cook a fresh dinner pretty much every night of the week, unless we have leftovers like pasta or chili or something like that. I personally don't want to eat a dinner that is basically in a frozen dinner container. There's definitely been times in my life where that was necessary. But having a family and family dinner is really important to me. So I don't want to be sitting there eating my little meal out of a meal prep container while my kids are enjoying a really nice, freshly cooked meal. There's no reason that I cannot enjoy that meal with them. I have also found that switching to ingredient prep has decreased my stress. It's definitely decreased my food waste. Another issue I had with prepping as much as I could at the beginning of the week was boredom. Just because I thought on Sunday that I would want to eat a turkey burger with sweet potato and broccoli for lunch all week, by the time I got to Wednesday or Thursday, I was over it. No matter how delicious something is, I am not someone who wants to eat the exact same thing every single day for lunch. So I just felt like it made food more enjoyable, having that flexibility, and I wasn't wasting food because I wasn't saying, I don't want to eat this. I'm just going to make something else or get takeout or whatever. I just find it's much more pleasant and I'm still prepared, but there's flexibility. If you're someone that's looking to streamline your meal planning, your meal prep, I really recommend checking out my 15-minute meal planner. I personally, at this point, only spend about 10 to 15 minutes per week planning my meals, planning what ingredient prep I'm making, choosing recipes, and making my shopping list. And in my 15-minute meal planner, you can learn to do this too. It's a whole complete system. It's got printables. It has a digital version. And you can plan everything from the dinners specifically that you're making during the week, the lunches, what you're going to have for breakfast, and you can just learn how to really streamline that process for you. I know it is so stressful for many women, and I would say it's actually a huge obstacle for a lot of people when you're balancing how you want to nourish your body, your own health and wellness goals, and yet you still have to feed everyone else in your family. And my 15-minute meal planner can really help you with that. It's already preloaded with a lot of my favorite recipes that are all quick, easy, healthy. There's slow cooker recipes, Instant Pot recipes, air fryer recipes. And once you see it, you'll just see how much easier it can really make that whole process for you. So I just wanted to put it out there, and I'll make sure to put the link in the show notes here so that if you want more information, you can check that out. Before we go, I also want to mention how helpful it can be to purchase prepped food items. When the work is already done for you, it can make life so much easier. If you're strapped for time and you need to run into the grocery store, do not feel guilty about grabbing some prepped veggies, a rotisserie chicken, a bagged salad, maybe some chopped up fruits or guacamole. There's so many convenient and healthy foods out there in the grocery stores these days. And I know it can seem expensive at the time, but think about it. it's expensive no matter what you're eating. So if you're going to save yourself a few minutes and really be able to make yourself a nourishing, delicious meal where you're saving yourself time not having to peel sweet potatoes or spiralize some zucchini or things like that, do not feel guilty about it. Treat yourself to it the same way that you would treat yourself to a dinner out. And don't forget about convenient foods that you can just keep on hand. Things like single serving yogurts, hard boiled eggs. You can even buy pre-made hard boiled eggs at the grocery store. Protein shakes. They even have the pre-made protein shakes now at the grocery store that are delicious. My kids absolutely love the Fairlife shakes. And we recently found the Shamrock Farms shakes, which I don't know if they're only available in the New England area, but they're almost half the price of the Fairlife ones. And their protein content and flavor and everything is very similar to the Fairlife. So grab one of those. You're going to get yourself a snack with 20 grams of protein. And let's not forget about apples, oranges, and bananas. They're the original on-the-go takeout food. They come in their own container. You can always stash them in your bag, bring some into work, and you have a fiber-filled, delicious, nutritious snack ready to go. And honestly, you can find so many healthy choices in almost any restaurant these days. I actually follow a woman on Instagram who is in incredible shape and she despises cooking. And she made a deal with her husband that they were just going to eat out. And to me, someone who loves to cook, it seems so odd, but I really appreciate her account because she'll share exactly what she orders so that, she stays on track with her fitness goals. And one tip she gives is she will often double the protein. Say if you were going to go to Subway, order a 6-inch sub, but get double turkey on it. Or go to Chipotle and get yourself a bowl and get double meat, but then only get rice or only get beans or something like that. So she had some really great tips that I thought was smart because we can often find ourselves in a position where our only option is to go to Chipotle or Subway or Wendy's or any number of fast food places. So I thought that that's something we really should not look down upon or think that, we cannot stick to our way of eating just because we need to eat out. And I don't think anyone needs to feel guilty about not wanting to cook. So if you really hate cooking, then instead take that time to educate yourself on what would be some different options. Because if you're not cooking, you're obviously eating out or in some way having food prepared for you. So are there different tweaks that you could make to nourish your body in a way that maybe makes you feel a little bit better? There's so many different ways to eat in a way that is going to make your body feel good. And, so many takeout foods and everything have a lot of salt, but there are ways around that. So I hope you guys found this episode helpful. I think it's important that we talk about these nuanced topics and realize that not one single way is going to work for everybody. And we take the time to really investigate and learn what might work for us. And even though I feel really great about so many ways that I do things, I personally have that inner need to always be looking for better ways, new ideas. And it's something that gets me really excited. I love trying new things. And if you're like me, then these are the types of things that we're going to talk about on here. And I would love to hear from you if there's any topics that are like this, where you're seeing things talked about in one very specific way, or one way is really held to be the standard and ideal. And you think to yourself, gosh, there's got to be a better way that would actually be more realistic for me, then go ahead and shoot me an email, lil@liliuslewis.com, or send me a DM on my Instagram. And I would love to hear from you what other topics you would like to talk about here. Have a great day. We only have 1 week left in January. I cannot believe it. And I hope that you are kicking off 2023 in a way that you feel good about. And I hope to see you, hear you, connect with you on the next episode. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check the episode details for my new listener starter guide, and any additional resources mentioned in the episode can also be found in the show notes on my website. You can always find me on Instagram at Macros with Lil, and for more healthy lifestyle tips, recipes, and information on my one-to-one and group coaching services, make sure to check out my website. All the links can be found below. If you know someone else who is ready to start building their formula for feeling their best, please share the love and send them a link to the podcast. I hope you found today's episode helpful, and I'll see you back here next week for a brand new one.